Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Road Ahead Talks. Today with me, Vijeta Soni, I have a very interesting leader who supports a lot of sellers, brands based out of United States to help them sell better, maximize their revenue potentials on different types of e-commerce platforms. At the same time, he also helps them with maximizing their visibility and profitability in the ground operations and their visibility in the stores, like for example, Walmart, Kroger, and the various retail format stores. So I would love to, have Eric give a very quick introduction about himself so that we can know about him and his company and what kind of impact are they doing in this industry today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Eric, thank you so much for making time for us today on this show. I would love for our viewers to know a little about you and your company and what kind of impact are you making with the clients that you're working with.
Of course, Eric Martindale. I'm the founder of Elite Commerce Group, and if you ask me to introduce the company, it really depends on how I introduce the company. It really depends on who's asking. We're at our core, we're an Amazon agency. That's how I started about 12 years ago, a little over 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. But about 3 years ago, we started leaning hard into retail media, which I can explain in a little bit. We had an Amazon account, a client that asked us to tackle Instacart for them, and we said yes. We saw what that did for that brand and then just ran with it. So we have been driving hard into that space over the last about 3 years.
Wonderful, wonderful. So Eric, you started to touch upon this point of retail media. This is something which sounds very easy, but in the end has a lot of technicalities and ground foundational science to be followed. If you can help us understand more about what is retail media and what are some of the misconceptions that brands and sellers usually have when it comes to this term.
Of course. Retail media is a form of digital advertising. It is, as the name suggests, it is a form of digital advertising on various retail websites and retail marketplaces. The idea is that we can target customers that shop digitally for in-store fulfillment or retail fulfillment. And the application is not just sales, but we're helping brands get the velocity they need in specific retailers or retailers at large so that they can stay on the shelf, they can introduce more SKUs, get more doors with a particular retailer, etc.
Got it. And when you're helping the brands with the retail media, what kind of challenges have you seen? What kind of misconceptions usually the brands have when it comes to the retail media? And how do you approach that? How do you help them fix it and give them a direction towards a better velocity?
There are actually quite a few misconceptions, misunderstandings from brands, and a lot of that it's understandable because this is really new. It's still a frontier. We're still early in the frontier. Mm-hmm. So the first is a lot of brands don't know what retail media is. They hear the buzzword now. They hear the term. They think, oh, this is another thing that I have to pay for, like slotting fees, and a lot of them just kind of, tune it out. So some of it is just understanding what it is. And then once a brand does know what it is, there's some misunderstandings about attribution. Can I trust the data? How measurable is it? How flexible is it? Where does the budget come from? In other words, how do I use this tool? How do I fund this tool? Because it's new. If you can go back and some of the things like slotting fees, they've been around for decades. So brands can ask other brand owners, how do you deal with this? How do you budget for it? How do you make sense of it? But retail media is very new. And there is a cost. It's very, very measurable and it's very flexible, but there is an ad expense. No, retailers don't allow you to advertise for free. So how do I fund that? How do I budget for it? What costs can I cut in order to, fund this activity? And there are good answers to all of that. So, how we've really tackled that is trying to promote awareness. And, I've tried to drive information on LinkedIn. That's been our platform of choice. We do a newsletter as well. So we push out as much information as possible, just so that brands understand, what this set of tools is, and how they can use it and how it'll help their business.
So you and your company help brands work with different types of retailers, or is this restricted to certain retailers only? Can this be used across all the marketplaces, or is it restricted?
Oh, such a good question. If I kind of explain a little bit, just in a couple of sentences, how retail media works, it'll lead me to a better answer for that question, I think. And if I'm a brand and I'm selling to, let's say, Kroger, and my buyer tells me I have to have 4 sales per SKU, per door, per week. I have to get that velocity or they're not going to keep me in the store. And this is Kroger specifically. So what retail media allows us to do is target a very specific subset of customer for Kroger. So really that is your Kroger.com shopper. Now, we're not looking for the e-commerce customer. We're looking for the customer that wants delivery to their home delivery, or in-store pickup. So they're ordering online for in-store fulfillment, for retail fulfillment. So really what we're trying to do is turn products on the shelf. So who can we help? It depends on the retailer. I think that was your original question.
Yep.
So what I kind of look at myself as like a really low paid doctor. A brand will come to me and say, here's my problem. Here's my pain point. I just launched into Kroger, or I just launched into Walmart, or I'm in Target and the buyer says I'm not moving enough product. How can you help? And then how I can help really depends on the retailer. There are certain retailers that there are becoming fewer and fewer, but there are retailers where I cannot target them with a specific platform. Usually it's smaller regional ones. Almost all the national chains, I can find a very specific platform and drive sales at that particular retailer. But it really just depends. Some chains like Costco, if a brand gets into Costco, there might be 3 different ways I can increase velocity through three different platforms. So it really just depends.
Super. So if I'm a brand and you and the team starts helping me out, what kind of impact in my velocity and my churn rate should I be expecting? So so that the brands can start lapping up to this idea of using retail media to the most optimal way. So how much do you think usually the impact comes in to a brand if they start taking this route in a more directed and scientific manner?
That is a very insightful question. I don't want to give you a squirrely answer, so I'll kind of come back to it, but technically it depends, which is not a great answer on any podcast, but it depends on a number of factors. It's going to depend on the retailer you're looking for traction with. It's going to depend on your budget. It's going to depend on the other activities that you're taking. For instance, there are some brands that just have in-store demos just dialed down, and they just need a little bit of a lift. And we can always give them a little bit of a lift. So let's say a brand was told, I have the buyer wants, we'll go back to this example, my target buyer wants 4 turns or 4 sales per SKU, per door, per week.
Right.
What I can do usually is I can make an estimate on ROI, how many dollars it will take to sell 1 unit. And then we can throw out a budget and say, okay, $1,000 will drive this many units, and could be per month or per week. And it all starts with that number. If I can estimate how much it costs to drive a certain number of widgets, then the brand can come back and say, okay, let's double that, or let's do half of that. So out of those 4 turns per week, you would hope that some of them would come organically. That not all of your inventory is just going to sit on the shelf unless you make it move. So the brand might come back to me and say, I need to move 1 of those with retail media. They might come back and say, two are moving organically, or we're moving 2 right now. We're going to move 1 this way, and we want to move 1 through retail media. They might want to move a half. We have a brand right now, and this is where it depends, really comes in. I can't get away from that, but we have a brand that just launched into Sprouts, and they're looking to retail media, to us, to move everything they need to move. And it looks like we're going to be able to do it. Almost everything. We won't get 100%, but and we're still early on. We're only about 2.5 weeks in, but it looks like we're going to be able to drive most of that with retail media. And they're very aggressive. They're very, very aggressive brand. They know they want to stay in Sprouts. So it depends.
That's wonderful. And Eric, I have seen some of your posts where you're speaking about technology, and technology is shaping a lot of it's shaping the future of the retail business, whether it is brand, or whether it is e-commerce company, or whether it is a brick and mortar retailer. Technology adoption in the retail industry is bound to happen. What are some of the areas where you feel that technology can be leveraged to truly improve the productivity of a business, productivity of the people in it, and the way we work? What are your thoughts on it?
Wow, I have a lot of thoughts on it, because I think you and I would probably agree we're at a tech inflection point. Things are moving so quickly that AI gets all the press, but when you look at robotics, humanoid robotics that are going to be powered by generative AI, even the metaverse. Nobody talks about the metaverse anymore, but there's so much development happening there. Things are just moving so quickly. What we're doing is, the way we're approaching it is, one, really, really paying attention and studying. We spend a lot of time trying to figure out where, in particular, where is retail going in terms of technology. And if you look at tech development, there are companies like yours that are driving a lot of development. There are a lot of startups and scale ups that are driving development, but big companies are really embracing and driving tech in a big way. Who are big companies? Of course, you have Google and you have Apple, but you also have Walmart and you have Target and Kroger. And people don't tend to look at those companies as driving tech, but they absolutely are. Amazon is one of the biggest developers of AI. They have been for many years, and we don't really think of that, but they are. So it starts with really paying attention to what's happening, and where are those, for us in our industry, where are those retailers going? If we don't know where the retailer is going, there's nothing that we're going to do that's going to make sense. Most of what we do is not going to make sense. So I think it starts there. And then one of the other things that we're doing is we have, I'm sure you guys are way ahead of us, but we have a direct integration with OpenAI. So we're using, everybody's toying around with ChatGPT, but the real magic is behind it. And we're using that a lot to both manipulate data. We're using it for a lot of analysis. So now a brand, what does a brand do? I think a brand does a lot of the same stuff. They really need to pay attention when Walmart takes actions, they do things, they announce the digital shelf, things like that are in the press. Brands need to pay attention and start to, do a little bit of top of mind thought. Where is Walmart taking us? Because Walmart gets the last say. They're the ones who touch the customer. We can put our products on the shelf, but Walmart gets to decide how they touch the customer. So we really need to pay attention, and we need to play into what Walmart wants to do, what Kroger wants to do, Target wants to do, Aldi wants to do. And then the other thing is, I think brands need to be able to expect a lot out of their agency partners. I think agency partners should all be thought leaders. Brands most of the time are paying enough that they deserve that. And a brand, if I'm developing a food product, I can't be all things. I can't be all things in my company. You can't be all things. So a brand is probably a brand owner, founder, team member is probably not going to be a leader in the tech space, but you should be able to require that your agency partners are. And if they're not, you might be in trouble in a couple of years.
Absolutely. I mean, tech adoption and the whole mindset around the improvement that the tech can take, can actually make in the industry is very important. And it starts, as you rightly said, it starts at the leadership level, right? Where you have to be first very open towards adapting where the tech can be applied. I mean, tech cannot be applied everywhere.
Right.
There are certain areas where it has to be done by a human because you need that human touch. But yes, there are many mundane things which tech can help out with, which can actually start improving the productivity of the entire organization. It can take it to the next level altogether.
Absolutely.
And one very important part that comes when it comes to retail is the pricing, because the shopper of today has a lot of mediums through which the shopper is able to compare prices. It is able to go to different platforms, go to different retailers. So pricing has become very transparent. It's no longer opaque. According to your experience, how does pricing impact a customer's mind in today's world? Is it important? And how important is it, if it is?
Oh my goodness. There's so much here. It is, I'll use the term deadly important. And I'll give you an example. I wish I could tell you that I thought of this, but I didn't. But I'm going to give it to you. A huge learning point for me. And I've been doing this for a while. We had a brand that we were managing, and we had hit a plateau, and this happened to be on Amazon, and we just couldn't break through this plateau. And we had dealt with the typical things that would help the brand grow, like review management. And the founder, just out of nowhere, he texted me one day and he said, "What would happen if we dropped our price to, X amount?" And I remember staring at the text and I said, "I think you would sell a lot more." And it wasn't crazy significant. It was just one of those, we always look at them as psychological barriers. If I sell a product for $4.99 versus $5.05, that actually makes a difference. Now, I can't quantify that. You can. You guys can do this because you have the tech behind it and you have the data. But we've always known that there are some barriers where a customer says, "I'm not going to pay more than this." So manually that's hard to do. You have to test for 30 days or something like that. You have to do an A/B split test. When you do an A/B split test, the challenge is, when I tested this half, this group, the conditions weren't exactly the same, whether I did it month by month or I did, first half of the day, second half of the day. So there are some challenges there, but it does matter. And I will tell you, with that brand, we broke through that plateau. I mean, I'm still shocked by it. This was probably about 6 months ago, and just shattered it. And so pricing is extremely important. Between platforms, it's important. We have platforms that will price match and suppress your listings. Sometimes when that happens, we're managing on Amazon, and the listing gets suppressed, or we lose the buy box or something like that on Amazon, and then I have to go back to the team, or my team has to go to the brands team and say, what are we? Something happened. We're price matching something, and they'll say, oh, we're priced lower at this retailer, and we didn't even think of it. We didn't realize it. So there's a lot. It's becoming more important, I think, for brands to get their minds wrapped around. And as you said, there's so much transparency now, and it's so easy for a customer to compare.
Yes.
I don't want to talk too much, but I want to throw one more thing out there. I read recently, this is something that Target released, and Target, please forgive me if I mess up the number a little bit. I think I have it. I think I'm right on, but because I know Target is watching this podcast. It was, if I have this right, Target said that 76% of customers use their phone or app in store while shopping. That is staggering. That's 3 out of every 4 customers are pulling out their phone when they walk through the Target store to look for sales, deals, price shop. So we are in a connected world, and it matters.
So true, and that's a phenomenal number out there. That 76% of your shoppers who are in the retail store, they are checking out their phones, devices to hunt for prices if they're getting better deals somewhere else, and therefore it becomes so much more important for brands, retailers, and even e-commerce companies to be very focused on this critical lever, which is pricing.
Absolutely.
For us to bring forward your company and your thoughts in how your company can actually help retailers, help brands out in making better decisions when it comes to retail media. So how do you all work with them? If you can give a little bit of understanding there as well.
What we do is we partner with a brand we're month to month. We partner, I always say, at the pleasure of the brand. So at the point where we have one brand where we're working 9 different retail media platforms. And interestingly, about a month ago, that in the same week, they lost Whole Foods, unfortunately, and picked up Sam's Club. So within 15 minutes of finding out that they lost Whole Foods, we closed down their ads, and their obligation to us stopped for Whole Foods. And then Sam's Club, it took us about 24 hours to get their ads up and running on Sam's Club. So we're very modular in that regard.
Wow.
The impact, I think, is its velocity. But one thing I think brands really need to pay attention to is the connectedness and I would say the blurring of the lines between digital and physical. And we are headed for a completely digital retail experience and ecosystem. And what I mean by that is, if you look at all of the different technologies that are emerging right now, and they seem distinct and they seem independent. So the digital shelf that Walmart is rolling out by 2026, robotic fulfillment, autonomous vehicle delivery that Kroger is piloting right now, drone delivery, immersive screens, interactive screens. We're going to have screens that know me by the membership card on my keychain or the app on my phone, and they speak to me specifically. And we look at all these as separate technologies, but they're not going to be. Make no mistake, this is going to be one ecosystem. And what we
Mm.
have with retail media right now is we have a window of control. The applications are very specific right now to driving velocity, but very soon, a lot of what happens in that store is going to come through that same window. There's going to be a lot of things that happen that right now happen manually. They're all going to be digital, like as you see with pricing
Mhm.
and being able to target specific customers and do target in some of the ways that we can in e-commerce right now. We're going to be able to do that in store. So what we're offering the brand, in addition to velocity, is really control over their presence in that digital ecosystem, if that makes sense.
Wow. And this brings a lot of nimbleness in that um, in that brand. I mean, because the example where you gave that they shifted from one retailer to the other, and it happened in barely 24 hours, right? And that's highly nimble. So wonderful. Kudos to you and your team for doing that. And I'm looking forward to so many brands um, starting to work on retail media, leveraging it, bringing in more automation, bringing in more science and thought leadership through you and your team as well.
Thank you. We're trying.
Great, Eric. It was such a nice time to speak with you and learn about the retail media. Um, I look forward to learning more from you with your LinkedIn. I follow you on LinkedIn. I follow your posts. Would love to learn a lot from you. With that, thank you everybody for listening through it. We look forward to many more Road Ahead talk shows with each one of the thought leaders who will be coming over here, and waiting to have many more people like Eric on the Road Ahead talk show.
Awesome. I will be tuning in. So thank you for having me, and I'll be watching.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.